Happy Monday, friends. Remember, I was going to finish The Littlest Bigfoot that we have been reading. This is our fantasy book. We were only on chapter 4 when we left. So we have 3 characters that we have been, we drew, we talked about, we described. First, we have Alice. Alice was our main character at the beginning of the story and throughout the story. These are the 3 main characters. So we have Alice. She's our misfit character that has been kicked out of all the schools she's gone to. She doesn't fit in anywhere. So she's struggling. So now we're up to the school that she is in the woods. Then we had Millie. Millie is our Bigfoot that lives in the woods, lives in the forest. Remember, she's a little bit of a rebel. She's the one that wants to meet the humans, be with the humans, and interact with them. And then we have Jeremy. I'm sorry, I wrote down all this stuff this morning. Jeremy is trying to make everybody believe that there are these Bigfoot people out there, and he's wildly misunderstood, and no one wants to believe him. So that's where we're at, and we are back to Alice at her new school in the woods. I know that we read some of this, but I'm going to reread it. I'm going to reread half the chapter, and then we are going to make some predictions on what's going to happen in the rest of the chapter today. That'll be your questions that come into your email later today. Okay, here we go. Chapter 4, Alice. Remember, this isn't a picture book anymore. We're going to try and finish this novel. Alice stepped out of Lee's car and into the drowsy late summer heat, thinking that the new school strongly resembled a dilapidated summer camp. The big dark log cabin lodge sat slumped on top of the hill. Lush vegetables gardens edged up against the soccer fields with raggedy nets in the goals. Down a short slope was the lake with a half a dozen banged up canoes and battered kayaks pulled up onto the sandy shore, and a stack of sun-bleached, stained, and fraying life jackets were piled beside them. Alice remembered something from the school's welcoming letter about how their picturesque new lakeside campus would let our learners and guides live in harmony with nature, with the elements of earth and air and water and the cycles of the moon. The school's founders emphasized that they try to recycle or free cycle everything they needed, sourcing material from donations and the barter system. She wondered if any of the parents had gotten here, taken one look at how shabby everything was, and immediately asked for their money back. The sound of drums echoed through the humid air. Across the soccer field, a tall, stick-skinny man was banging on a set of bango drums. A short, plump woman, whose face was painted orange, was doing a kind of twirling and skipping dance beside him. "Welcome to Eden, the land of love," the woman was singing. No one seemed to find this unusual. Parents greeted each other with smiles and hugs. Kids exchanged grins and high fives. Alice sided up to Lee, who gave her a sympathetic look, then began unloading her bags and carrying them to a tree where the sign says 12-year-old learners had been taped up on the trunk. "Learners?" Alice said. "We prefer that term." The short woman with the orange face paint had skipped up beside Alice. She had a wreath of flowers on her head and a half-moon-shaped stain soaking her t-shirt under her armpits. "We believe in lifelong learning, and now all of us are students in the school of life." Alice pressed her lips together so this woman, who was obviously an authority of some kind, wouldn't see her laugh. "Did the school of life hand out diplomas? Could you graduate with honors?" "Instead of students and teachers, we use the words learners and guides," said the woman. "I'm Lori, by the way, Lori Moondaughter. My partner Phil and I are founders of the center." Alice frowned. The website said the center was founded by Lori Weineb. The woman smiled waver. "I changed it," she said. "I'm renouncing the patriarchal practice of daughters always taking their father's name." She stood on her tippy toes, bringing her painted face close to Alice's ear. "Also, I hated my last name." Lori captured both of Alice's hands in her own. She pressed them together and squeezed. "We are so glad you're here. We are glad you're a part of our village, and so glad you're going to be a part of it with everyone. with all of our hearts. Lori dropped Alice's hands and placed her right hand on her chest atop the organ in question. We welcome you. Thank you, said Alice. She made herself smile at Lori, then looked over at her luggage, wondering if she would quickly empty out the clothes and books and photographs she'd brought with her, then folded herself up into the trunk and send it back to New York. Now, said Lori, Miss Merriweather told me all about you. I'm afraid there aren't too many of you 12-year-olds, 6 boys and 4 girls. But there are just 3 of you now. In a few weeks, you'll have a learner named Jessica Jarvis joining the village. Oh, and let me introduce you to Raya Amrit. Lori wrapped her arms around the shoulders of a slim, composing-looking girl with lush eyebrows and eyelashes and a graceful, contained way of moving. Her thick, dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail, a very neat one. Alice noted, and her teeth were very, very even and white. Rhea, Lori announced, is one of the top-rated fencers in her group. She smiled at Rhea, who smiled back. I'm Alice, Alice said. Rhea nodded. Welcome. Lori latched onto another girl. Oh, here's Tally Nettleman. This is Alice Mayfair. Hello, snuffed Tally, who was tall and pale with freckles and curly blonde hair tucked under a bandana. She wore an orange jumpsuit with pockets made of blue fabric and white stars. There were pink high-top basketball sneakers on her feet, and she sounded so congested Alice was surprised she could say anything at all. Welcome to our learning community, she said. Can you two show Alice around? Lori peered toward a pair of card tables whose metal legs appeared to be sinking into the lawn in front of the lodge. One table held a trio of plastic bowls, the other plastic platter of cut-up carrots and pita bread slices into triangles. I think we're running out of hummus, she hurried away. Tally rolled her eyes. I hope you like hummus, she said. We eat it, like all the time. The hummus isn't so bad, said Rhea. The lentil loaves are the problem. Oh, God, don't mention the lentil loaf, said Tally, and sneezed twice. Allergies, she said, and waved her hands to the woods and the fields. Mold, dirt, pollen, everything. Got all the allergies. If you're allergic to all that, how come you're going to a school in the woods? Alice asked. Her parents are friends with the wine rabs, said Rhea. Moon, daughter, Tally said, and blew her nose. Rhea nodded. Right, so Tally's parents sent her brother and 2 sisters so Phil and Lori would have some students. We volunteered as tribute. This is my 4th year at the center. Lucky me. Tally sniffled and Alice followed her 2 classmates to a small, slightly tilted cabin with 2 sets of bunk beds and cubbies built into the walls. Raw sap oozed down onto the floorboards in the corner, and the floor looked very uneven. Tally saw Alice staring. Yeah, the campus used to be an old farm upstate, but there were zoning issues. The neighbors complained about the compost heap and the runoff and the smell. So Lori and Phil found this spot. It was an old campground. Tally set her backpack on the bottom bunk, and Alice looked at her. You can pick any bunk you want, she said to Alice. Alice claimed the second bottom bunk. Big as she was, she could only imagine a top bunk sagging inches from her bunkmate's face. How about you? She said to Rhea. How did you end up here? I fence, said Rhea. That sounds like all she does. That and gymnastics. Phil and Lori let her do all academics for an hour. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm stuck. An hour in the morning, then she just works with her coach. She sniffled, blew her nose, and turned to Alice. What's your thing? Alice thought, does everyone here have a thing? For the most part, Rhea said. She was pulling books out of her backpack. The Noble Art of the Sword, The Inner Game of Fencing, The Best Foil Companion. Kevin Atwater, you'll meet him later, does magic. Not actual magic, she said, seeing Alice's face. Just magic tricks. Sleight of the hand, Tally confirmed, spreading a pink and purple comforter on her bed. What's your thing? Alice asked Tally, who looked at her and frowned. I have allergies. That's my thing, she said. Oh, said Alice. She wondered if her thing could be a talent or a problem, says Tally, like Tally's allergies, like her own hair, like her own everything. Did trying to disappear count as a thing? And she's extremely creative, Rhea said. Tally gave her a look that was equal parts affection and exasperation. She can sew, said Rhea, in the same tone she used to announce that Tally could fly, and pointed towards an old-fashioned sewing machine and a bag of fabric in the corner. Alice was quiet, hoping they would drop the topic of her own special thing. She made her bed with her fancy cotton sheets Felicia had picked up, slipped her own pillowcase onto her crisp case, slipped her pillow into the crisp cases, and set her toothpaste, toothbrush, and family-sized bottle of extra-strength conditioner in the bathroom. Tally was there putting away a small ceramic pitcher that she said she called a neti pot. Don't ever drink out of that. Probably don't even touch it. She filled the pot with warm water, leaned over the sink, tilted her head, and stuck the spout in her nostrils. It is for congestion, she said to Alice. Someone had slipped a daily schedule under the door. Alice picked up the piece of paper and started to read out loud. Each morning begins with a choice of morning meditation, sun salutation, or international weeding. International intentional weeding. It's regular weeding, said Rhea, who must have noticed Alice's confusion. You just have to look at it like you're thinking about it. She unzipped a duffel bag and pulled out a sword, a foil, Alice thought. She looked out the window and saw a few grown-ups, learning guides, she had to remember to say to herself, walking past. One of the men was wearing a floaty white shirt, and one of the women had bright and red buzz cut and a ring through her septum. Like you pull out the weed and you look at it for a minute, like you're sorry that you interrupted its experience, and then just be glad it's over. And then just be glad they also got rid of contemplative canoeing. Why? Asked Alice. She was beginning to get the idea that at the experimental center, there was a story behind everything. Last year, Jared Kagan fell asleep in the canoe and floated like 5 miles downriver. Laurie and Phil had to go into town and borrow a motorboat from one of the guys at the gas station. And you could probably guess how Laurie and Phil feel about burning fossil fuels, Rhea said. Also, the townies thought we were freaks, Tally called from the bathroom. Alice nodded, then wandered towards the door, managing to bump into another sword that was resting against the wall. Careful, Rhea snapped as the sword clattered to the floor. Nimbly, Rhea hopped off the bunk. Alice mumbled an apology, the first of many she'd be making, she thought, and finally walked outside. So I'm going to stop right there. And like I said, there's going to be questions in your email. I hope you guys are having a great day. I know it's kind of yucky out today, a little snowy and rainy. And I will talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.